All right, we're here at Elkhart, Indiana today to view the 3001, which is the last of the New York Central locomotives. This is an L3 Mohawk. There's only the number 2800, and then there's two other locomotives in the world. So there's only 4 New York Central locomotives in the world, and this is one of them. Well, anyway, this is the modern of the modern. This is like the last of the. This is a modern locomotive. It was a dual-purpose engine. It has the 69-inch drive wheels, which is good for freight or passenger. And we're talking about the Baker valve gear, long frame Baker valve gear, box pock drivers, 69-inch, and I'd like to make a model of this locomotive and 1.6, which is a pretty big engine. The drivers will be 9 1/4 inches in diameter. And a lot of people don't get this box pock driver correctly. This is all hollow inside here. And I'm not going to make it all hollow. Mine will be solid. But in this area where it shows it to be hollow, I'll have a core in here to make it look like it's hollow. So a lot of people really just make this round in here and they put a round hole and they think that's a box pock driver wheel. I noticed that kind of thing. So we're going to get it right. Delta trailing truck, which is pretty common, looks like every other Delta trailing truck around. No booster. Injector. I'm sorry, non-lifting injector. This is a seller's non-lifting injector. No, it's actually made by the Marnus company, Margus. So let me say, M-A-G-N-U-S, Magnus. Magnus Brass Manufacturing, Cincinnati, Ohio is where they were made. And it's non-lifting, 1 injector. The other side has a Worthington SA feed water heater. We'll explain that when we get on the other side. But I was talking about the Baker valve gear. The Baker valve gear on this engine, these frames here, people don't realize this, but when you design a locomotive, the support for the frame, for the Baker frame, is here and back here. Now it comes down between the drivers, and then this one is in front of the front driver. Now on a Hudson, this frame was actually a little bit longer. It came down in proportion to this, maybe about here, because the drivers on the Hudson are much larger. They're 69, almost 10 inches bigger in diameter, 80-inch, 79-inch drivers. And so you have to take that into consideration when you make these frames, that you have it all the way. If you want to make one frame, you have to make it so it'll fit on both. But these are all ball bearings in here, needle bearings and so on. On this side, down here, we have Franklin Precision reverse gear right here. Now this is a screw reverse, and it's what they call precision because you can almost dial it right in, whereas on a quadrant style you have notches, so you either one notch or the other, nothing in between. But this has a little finer adjustment in between. You can't see it from here, but I'll get a close-up of it. This is a speed recorder. It runs on the wheel and it tells you how fast everything's going, which would be a nice feature. Everybody wants to know, how fast did they go? Well, we'll figure that out. Of course, this is the signature step. William Sherman Corwin III likes the signature step. I don't know why they would have a step here. Would you like to ride on this while I was going 80 miles an hour? I guess I'd get up there or whatever they got to do. And DV5, Nathan DV5 lubricator. Not the 7, it's a little shorter. And one lubricator does everything. Cylinders cast into the frame, part of the frame. It's all one piece. Cylinders for the, you can't see them there, but they're in here. Brake cylinders, 2 of them. Now, these are similar to Hudson's, but one or two things different about them is that the pilot beam, instead of being angled like on the Hudson, had an angle here. This one's straight across, like almost like a USRA pilot beam, like I just made for the Mikado. So I could use that. and has the screen there and the cross there, which is like signature of the Mohawk. It had that on most of the Mohawks, and of course down there putting an elephant ear on there on that side. I'm assuming they're going to do one on this side. The elephant ears were added. That was an add-on after the locomotives were built. Typical Pile National headlight. Now that's a Golden Glow up there, but they're similar. They're all the same, pretty much the same. Anyhow, now we'll pick it up, switch on the other side. All right, now we're on the fireman side, or the left side of the locomotive, and this side here they've got it in a little better condition because it faces the road. So they're painting it up and putting this ridiculous elephant ear up here, which really, although it's nice and straight, really doesn't look that good to me. But anyway, it's up there. Nothing particularly different about this side of the engine, except that this has the SA feed water heater on it, and they were made by Worthington. And back down here in the back, this pipe that I'm pointing at right here came all the way down, and right in here was what's called a cold water feed pump, which was made by Nathan. It's a steam turbine on one end and a pump on the other. Pulls the water in from the tender, pumps it up to the coffin feed water heater right in front of the stack, and which heats the water from the smoke box exhaust, and then the pump here pumps it in, which is the hot water pump, pumps it into the boiler, and this has a top feed on it, so it feeds up on the top there. And of course I don't have to mention that these are the air tanks for the main reservoirs. There's one on each side, and that gives you the main air for the locomotive, for the train. And here comes another train. Now this, like every 10 minutes trains come by. It's great. I like it. I wish there was steam, but what are you gonna do? We're not in that area. We're gonna jump back to 1955. There's coming as a 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 engine freight coming here. Maybe more than 5 engines. It's like 6 engines. 1, 2, I lost count. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 engines. 6 engines. Now you just pick it up speed after the crossing. This is going to be a long one, man. Even though it's diesel, it's still exciting to watch them go by. Back to the locomotive. Firebox. I don't know. I had to look at pictures to see where the lagging went on these. But they have a lot of bolts here, little stud bolts, so that could be that the lagging went down as far as the mud ring. Blow down, which blows down. Okay. Now, we're going to look at the tender right now. We're going to move down and look at the tender. This is the tender that's connected to the engine. And I'm going to say, I might stick my neck out here, but those that know, this might be a New York Central tender, but it's not the original tender, in my opinion. Original tender is back there. Now, this engine, as a point of talk, this engine was down in Texas for a number of years simulating a Texas and Pacific locomotive. Some reason or other, I don't know the history of that one engine down there was vandalized and was so bad beyond repair that they had to have another engine, so they substituted this engine, and but then it came back here. And it came back with this tender. Now during that time, the tender back there was used on the Freedom train. And if you know about the Freedom train, which is a Reading T1, it was in the Hagerstown Roundhouse, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I'm guessing, or just saying hearsay, what I heard is that the engine and tender, of course, were down and this was an auxiliary tender. The one back there was the original tender of this locomotive, was on auxiliary tender on the T1, which was in a fire in Hagerstown, in the famous fire where the engine burned up, and then Ross was able to get the 614. Now, I spoke to Ross last year personally. He came over to the PLS and we ran the K4. He told me that that's true. So there you go. And so this is a long haul tender, beautiful tank, beautiful tender, beautiful 6-wheel trucks under it. Okay, this is the tender we're talking about. I believe is the original tender. In the pictures that I've seen, the differences to me are that the sides are much higher and they have the curve, the distinctive New York Central curve on the top of the tender to hold more coal. And this tender was the original tender with the 3001. There's a coupler on this which shows me that it was an auxiliary tender. There's a coupler on this front of this tender in the drawbar. Now you can see right in here, you can't see it on pictures, but right in here, it's got these waves, buckles in it, all the way down the sides. And that shows that's from heat. It all warped. You'll never get them out of there, it's a shame. But to me, this is the original tender. Now you can see right here, there's a C right here. C&O, Chassis Systems, there's a C right there. Now these tender trucks, believe it or not, I've got the drawings, they have 42-inch wheels on them. 41 or 42-inch wheels. Big tender trucks, big heavy tender trucks. All 6-wheel Commonwealth tender trucks are not the same. There's different centers. Centers between the wheels. These are pretty much the same centers, but they're not the same truck. Let's see. Yes, they are identically the same trucks. So this could have been from another Mohawk. Could have been another one. But this definitely was the original tender, I believe. It's got a water bottom tank. What that means is that the bottom of the tender is a casting, which also makes part of the tank. So they call it water bottom. Well, this concludes our video from Elkhart, Indiana. We're going to spend a good part of the day here looking at the museum, taking pictures, and I hope you enjoy all my videos. I enjoy doing them, and from the Train Man, thanks for watching. We'll see you again on the next video.